Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Today I want to talk to you about a mechanic for fighters and monsters that's in this book here. It's called Delving Deeper. And this, maybe I'll talk about this game at some point, but it's really cool. It's actually what, all that game is a streamlined and cogent set of rules for OD&D. And because it's easier to follow than the original game was, and they did a great job with it. I'm really impressed with that game as well. But the mechanic is something that's an old mechanic. It should sound familiar to you a little bit if you played First Edition. But it's a little neat twist on what fighters can do. The idea being that, and there's a history to it. I mean, there's normal people, there's heroic people and monsters, and there's super heroic. And heroic is 3 to 6 hit dice or levels, and then super heroic is 7 and up, hit dice or levels. The idea being that a monster or a fighter can make one attack per round against opponents that are normal. And so in this case, they're under 3 hit dice or under a third level fighter. There's a really good argument for saying that's also under a 4th level cleric and under a 5th level magic user. And you can probably, if you're using something like Lamentations D6 hit dice for thieves, then you can say, okay, well, under a 4th level thief as well. These extra attacks aren't made at the normal attack bonus. They're made as if you were a 1st level fighter. Or if you'd like, you can make them as a normal man. Just make straight rolls. Uh, and so you get to make that many attacks per round. That makes the guy a little bit more powerful than he normally would be. It certainly takes care of that problem where like a 4-hit die ogre is less of a threat than 4 orcs. He may have a slightly higher attack bonus or be better on the attack matrix, but he just only gets to attack once. Now all of a sudden an ogre can really take out a bunch of villagers in a couple rounds. The same idea that like now your 4th level fighter can be pretty bad against something like a bunch of hobgoblins or whatever. In First Edition D&D, there was that rule that fighters can make 1 attack per round against foes that are less than 1 hit die. So that was great. Didn't even work against orcs. You could attack goblins and kobolds, and giant centipedes and giant rats. Hooray! By the time I was 3rd level, my DM had me fighting bugbears and stuff that I just didn't get to use that skill on. But it scales it down a little bit. In something like Basic or Lamentations of the Flame Princess, you do have to take into account that the rounds are 6 seconds long, not a minute long. But to be honest with you, I've watched movies. And I hate to bring up, it wasn't a great movie, but something like Batman versus Superman. Several scenes you watch Batman take out a bunch of mooks. And if you count 6 seconds, he's attacked these guys 7, 8, 9 times and knocked them all out. So that's just something, food for thought. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not, but that kind of makes fighters a little bit more relevant. A lot of things can, because sometimes I think fighters get the short end of the stick. Now, the other thing to take into account is something like Lamentations of the Flame Princess. There is a spell called Army of One. It's a 3rd level spell. I used to cast it on my power use fighter all the time, and it allows the guy 1 attack per round. So you might want to scale that up if you use it, to allow him to make 1 attack per round, no matter what kind of opponents he's facing. So that's it. It's just another take on making the fighters a little bit more powerful, and it's a very old rule, but I think it's a really effective one, because I always wish I could have used it in First Edition, but we were always fighting bugbears or gnolls or something like that.